Welcome back to Getting Started with Unreal Technology. In this video, we're going to start the creation of a very simple introductory level.
That's right, a very simple level. The objective of the next couple of videos is not to get you up to speed as a professional level designer. Instead, what we're looking at doing is exposing you to the experience of creating a level with Unreal Technology.
That's right. Now, as we proceed through future videos, you'll get a much more in-depth explanation of each and everything we're doing. For now, just follow along so that when you get into those later videos, you'll have already been exposed to a lot of the things we'll be doing. Now let's go ahead and get started. The first thing I want you to do is go under your File menu and choose New to create a new level. You'll see the New Level dialog where you can choose to create an additive or subtractive level.
That's right. In old Unreal Technology, basically everything was subtractive, which means you start off in a world of solid mass and you go in and you subtract out pieces, and that ends up forming your level. Now we have the ability to start off in a world that's completely void, where we start out by adding geometry in and we create our level up from there. In this level, what we're going to do is create a geometry style of subtractive. Later on, we're going to demonstrate another level, a much more involved level, that will use a geometry style of additive. So right now, imagine when Zach clicks OK, we are in a world of solid mass, and we will have to subtract out from that mass if we want to be able to walk around within a level.
That's right. So for now, we're going to click No on Saving Changes, and
well, there's nothing to save yet. The only thing that you guys can see right now in the world is just this red cube, a builder brush. This is nothing that we're going to actually see in the level. This is really just a template that we can move around and use to create stuff.
That's right. Now, if for some reason you don't see the red builder brush, it might be that you need to move around in this little viewport down here in the lower left-hand corner. So let's take just a second and talk about navigating this. If you drag with the left mouse button, this is kind of like driving a car. If you push the mouse forward, you move forward. If you pull the mouse back, you move back. And as you move left and right, it's kind of like turning your head to the left and to the right.
Yes, that's a way of walking through this virtual world. But what if you needed to look up and look down?
Well, you can just hold down the right mouse button, and this is a lot like turning your head or turning the camera on a tripod. You can turn to the left, turn to the right, look up, and look down. If you need to move, kind of like strafing through midair, you can pan the camera by holding down the left and right mouse buttons. Moving up and down will lift your camera straight up and straight down, and left and right will slide you to the left and right.
Very nice.
It will probably take you a few moments to get used to, so take a second and practice.
Yeah, but once you adjust to it, it's very intuitive.
That's right. Okay, so let's begin by creating our first room. The first thing we need to do is define the dimensions of this room, which will then be applied to our red builder brush. So if you move your mouse to the left-hand side of the screen, you're now inside the toolbox, which is a part of the user interface where you can see all the different shapes you can create. Right-click on the cube button, and you're going to get the brush builder, that's nice.
That's a very good one.
Brush builder cube, as my tongue gets tied, window where we can define the size of our red builder brush. We're going to set the x-axis to 512. We'll set the y-axis also to 512, and notice that I'm moving through these fields by pressing the up and down arrow key. I'm not using tab like you would in most Windows applications. Once you have 512 by 512 by 256, go ahead and click Build, and then you can close this window.
You'll notice that the builder brush adjusted in size to reflect these new settings.
That's right. This red builder brush is here to help us define the size of geometric objects we'll create. And
I'd like to point out one more thing as well. Right now, before you actually subtract anything out, I just wanted to point out that you can still see the grid through the room. Since there's no lights in this level yet, when you build this first room by subtracting some mass out, what's going to happen are those blue lines are going to disappear, but it's still going to be a black void because there are no lights in there.
That's right. So let's go ahead and create our first room by clicking on the CSG Subtract button here in the toolbox. And boom, suddenly you can't see the grid through the walls of the room anymore, but we can't really see the room either because all of the lights are off. What I'm going to do is solve that problem at first by switching this viewport to an unlit mode. Here across the top of the viewport, I have several different modes that I can choose from, with lit being the default. If I switch this to unlit, suddenly we can see the inside of the room. Now in this case, this shows us no lighting solution whatsoever. It's just as if we're looking at only the textures in the room. It would be cool if we had some sort of light that we could apply, and let's create that now by putting your mouse on the floor of the room, holding down the L key on your keyboard, and left-clicking with your mouse, and that creates a basic light.
Now, if we change back over to view this in a lit state, look at the difference. Ooh, now we've got shading. Very nice.
Things start to get kind of pretty. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is move this light up into the air, and you'll notice that when we created this light, we got this big widget here in the middle of our view that allows us to translate objects. As I move over each one of the arrows in turn, those arrows highlight to turn yellow. Move your mouse over the blue Z-axis part of the widget, and you can just drag this straight up into the air.
Okay, another thing that I'd like to point out is right now it looks like you're missing a wall. But as Zach moves around in this virtual world, it looks like the wall he's currently looking through always vanishes. That's because we cannot see the outside of these walls in this, well, with where we've got our camera right now standing out here in the void.
That's right. You can think of these walls as perfect one-way mirrors. So it's not like you're missing a wall. You just can't see it from this side.
Just wanted to say that in case anybody panicked.
Okay, now the next thing is I'm not a big fan of having to work in this tiny little window. So let's make this viewport nice and big so that everybody can see. We can do that by clicking on the Maximize Viewport button located here inside the viewport toolbar. And boom, there we go. Now everything's nice and big and easy to look at. The first thing we need to do inside this room is apply some sort of materials to the wall. By
translation, we need to paint our walls.
That's right. By default, we have this gray and, well, I guess gray and light gray. It's not really white. Texture that is applied to everything. And this is problematic, not only because it doesn't look very good, but because you will get errors if you leave this material on any of the surfaces in your level. So let's go into the generic browser, which is where we go to get all of our materials. You can access this from a few places. What I'm going to do is click on the Open Generic Browser Window button located here in the toolbar. It's a little blue checker box. Let's click on that, and here we get the generic browser. The generic browser is where you'll access all of the assets that you'll place into your level. These are things like materials, static meshes. The list really does go on and on with the things you'll find here, and you can read all about the various things you'll find here inside the resource types list. Now, currently this list has nothing checked because I have the Show All Resource Types button checked at the top. Make sure that if you're following along, you can see the Show Resource Types checkbox activated. Now, let's go ahead and open up a package where I'm going to find the materials I want to use here. We'll go to File, Open, and under the Environments folder, I'm going to open up ASC Walls and click Open. Give this just a moment to load.
Now, these are materials that were pre-constructed for the use of level design in Unreal Tournament 3. So basically, these materials are being used right now in various levels that have been put together by Epic Games.
That's right. Now we have this big, long list of materials. Our materials are going to appear as thumbnails that have a little sphere to which the material has been applied. We can scroll down this window by using the scroll bar on the right-hand side. You can also click and drag in any of the blank areas of the browser, and that'll give you the same effect. Now, there are actually a lot of things listed here. We can see textures, which are in red boxes. If we scroll back up to the top, we can see materials, which are in green. As of Unreal Engine 3, you can't apply textures directly to a surface. You must apply a material. So if you're already used to Unreal and you just want to come down here and grab a texture and slap it on a wall, that's a no-no. You can't do it. You must use a material which is going to include those textures. Now, because of that, I wouldn't mind narrowing down our list so that all we see was materials. What I'm going to do is come over here to my resource types list and check material. Notice that unchecks the show all resource types list, and if I scroll down, my textures are now gone, and all I see are just the materials available in this package. Now, I'm going to pick on a particular material. I'm going to use the ASC Walls BSP _ wood A03 material.
Not a big name at all.
No, that's not a mouthful. And I'm going to try to make the most of my screen space here by dragging the browser just outside of view so that I can just see that color swatch.
Now, getting this applied to our walls, the workflow is very important here. Just in case you have accidentally selected on a wall, Zach, go ahead and select a wall for him.
Well, if you click on a wall, it's going to turn blue to indicate it has been selected.
That's right. Now, let's just say that you've selected a wall and you don't realize it. If you're working over here in the generic browser and you click on one of these materials, it will assign that material to the wall, so keep that in mind.
And if you're completely new to Unreal, that can be really frustrating if you didn't know, for example, you had the floor selected and you clicked on some random material because you're going to apply that material to your surface. Also be aware, like if you had that fourth wall selected that you can't always see and you're waiting for something to get applied, you won't see the change, though the next time you wrap around, you'll get to see that that has been applied.
Yeah, loads of fun.
Okay, so I have applied my material now to 2 walls, but I'm going to show you a shortcut if you wanted to apply a material to all of your walls at once. If I select one of my walls, I can right-click on it, and you'll get this nice pop-up menu that shows you several different options, among which you'll see Select Surfaces. And inside this, you have several different options to allow you to choose different types of selections. And one of the things we see here is Adjacent Walls. So if I click on this, this will give me all of the walls of this particular room, which is very handy. Now, with all of them selected, I'm going to click on the ASC Walls BSP Wood A03 material one more time, and now we're applied to all of our surfaces, and that's pretty much what we're looking for.
Very nice.
However, I wouldn't mind something different for the floor.
Yeah, that floor just doesn't really work.
No, it looks a little funny.
Yeah.
So I'm going to open up a new package. We'll go to File, Open. In the generic browser, don't do it inside the main Unreal Ed user interface. In your generic browser, go to File, Open, and we'll choose ASC Floors, which is right over here, or just floor singular, thank you. Click Open and give that just a second to load in.
And there we go.
Now, once again, all we see in this package are materials because in my resource types list, material is the only thing we have checked. And I'm going to scroll to the top of this window, and we see ASC Floor BSP Tile 01, and that's what I'm going to be using. So let's go ahead and select the floor. Make sure you don't have the walls selected anymore, or you will regret it. And we'll click...
Just because you become frustrated for applying the material to your wall.
That's right. We'll click on Tile 01, and there we go. So now we have a tile applied. That looks pretty good. Nice little stone floor. And if you wanted to, you could select through different tile types and see which one you like the best. Okay, so now let's get something on the ceiling, because again, we don't want to leave this default texture there. It just looks really out of place. So let's open up yet another package. We'll go to File, Open once more, and we have... what is ceilings? I think it's in here somewhere. ASC Roof. There we go. I knew it was in there someplace.
All right, so let's see. What looks good here? Or do we not want to use one in this one?
I don't think we want to use one in this one.
Okay, so let's go to another
I was really excited, and then I was just like, no, I think these are just for static meshes. So
that's the interesting thing about having just thousands of materials right here at your fingertips.
That's right. So we're going to go back to the ASC Walls package.
Okay, sounds good.
And there is a BSP Wood A01 material in here that I think we can use. So let's go ahead and just select the ceiling. And, there it is. Make sure it turns blue, and then we'll click on Wood A01. And I think that's going to work.
That looks good.
Okay, so with that, I'm going to close out of the generic browser altogether, and let's get a good look at this room and what's going on. So we can see all four of the walls, the floor, and the ceiling have all been textured. They have a material applied. Let's go ahead and click on the ceiling again to deselect it. The problem that I have right now is that our walls are tiling in a really funny sort of way. We can see that we kind of have two copies of the texture, so that we have two different ornamentation bands running across the room, and really I only want one up near the ceiling. So to fix this, to control this, we need to change the tiling of our texture. I'm going to show you how to do that using the Surface Properties window. So go ahead and select any one of your walls, and we're going to press the F5 key. Now, you could alternatively go to View, and you'll see Surface Properties listed there, but I like F5. I'm a big fan of hotkey shortcuts whenever I can use them. And in essence, if you take a look and just really analyze what's going on here, we have exactly twice as much texture visible as we want. We really only want one of these ornamentation bands across the top, and we have exactly two. Aside from that, the texture is fitting rather well. So what I'm going to do is come down to the scaling group here inside my Surface Properties window. Under Simple, we're going to take the drop down and set it down to 2, which will increase the scale of this texture by 100%. We'll click Apply.
And there you go.
And there you go. So now everything is fitting really nicely on that wall. So our ornamentation band is up near the top. We got a nice little band down here at the bottom. But the rest of our walls look a little funny.
Yes, they do.
So let's select this wall, and let's talk about making multiple selections. I'm going to hold down the Control key and left click. I'm sorry. It is left click.
No, it is.
I know my left and my right. I really do. So Control left click on this wall, then still holding Control, click on this wall as well. And we'll click Apply one more time, and there we go.
Very nice.
Now, if you want, you can do this to any of these surfaces in your room. For example, if we wanted to make the floor tile maybe a little bigger, you could do that. That might be too big. I don't know. I kind of like it with the big stones there on the floor. I think we'll leave it. And with that, I think we're done with surface properties. I'm not too worried about the ceiling. We're going to be covering some of that up with static mesh beams a little bit later anyways. So let's close surface properties, and we have our basic room.
All right, so now, what do you want to do? Put some more geometry in?
Well, one room is nice, but it's kind of boring.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
It'd be nice if there was a second room. So what I'm going to do is shift over to a top view, where I'm looking down on the world from a bird's eye view, which I can do by either minimizing my viewport, by clicking on the Maximize Viewport button one more time, and I have a top viewport located up here in the top left corner. Now let's talk just a second about navigating this view, because it's a little different than navigating our 3D view. If you left drag around the screen, you're panning your camera. So it's like you're strafing, but really you're looking at a two-dimensional view here, so that's really all you can do. If you hold down the left and right mouse buttons, you're zooming in and out. So in between the two, you should be able to get wherever it is you want to go. Now, that's one way to get to a top view. Another way, which is kind of useful, is if you don't want to shrink your viewport down, you can jump right over to one by clicking on the top button here inside your viewport toolbar. So notice you have P, T, F, and S. So that's perspective,